Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. Capricorn One is a 1978 British-produced American thriller film that was written and directed by Peter Hyams and produced by Lou Grade's ITC Entertainment. The movie stars Elliot Gould as the reporter and James Brolin, Sam Waterston, and O.J. Simpson as astronauts. Hal Holbrook plays a senior NASA official. The storyline goes that when the head of NASA's manned Mars missions discovers that the capsule meant to carry the astronauts will suffer a complete catastrophic failure, he forces the three astronauts to participate in a hoax by broadcasting their mission from a studio built at a now abandoned Air Force base. Over the many months of the mission, the astronauts send broadcasts to Earth on their progress, and all goes well until their space capsule burns up on re-entry. They soon realize that the only way for the hoax to be maintained is for them to die, and they make a desperate attempt to escape their captors. All throughout this period, an investigative reporter gets wind of the fact that something is amiss with man's first mission to Mars, and slowly puts together the pieces of this mystery. Peter Hyams began thinking about this film, about a space hoax, while he was working on broadcast for the Apollo missions for CBS. He later reflected on the Apollo moon landing, the fact that that was one event of really enormous importance, that there were almost no witnesses of the act, and the only verification that they had came from a TV camera. He later elaborated on the idea of the story and the fact that whenever something was on the news about spaceflight, they would cut to a studio where there was a simulation of what was going on. He said that he grew up in a generation where his parents believed basically that everything they saw in the newspaper was true. He said that turned out to be complete rubbish. He said that his generation was brought up to believe that everything in television was true, and he found out that was complete rubbish. As he watched these simulations on TV, he started wondering what would happen if someone faked the whole story. He wrote the script in 1972, but nobody wanted to make it at all. But the Watergate scandal kind of changed that. It reactivated the interest in that type of scandal. Eventually, Lou Grade decided to make the movie after only seeing and visiting with Hyams for about 5 minutes. He gave him a budget of around $5 million to deal with. Filming started in January of 1977. Shooting locations included Cinerama Centers in Studio City and Red Rock Canyon State Park. The movie was originally scheduled to debut in the United States in February of 1978, but good preview screenings and delays in Superman caused them to move it to June. Capricorn One became that year's most successful independent film. Despite being portrayed as the villain in the film, NASA provided a lot of technical assistance in making it, including mock-up spacecrafts, sets, vehicles, and front screen projection expertise. At the time of the picture's release, Hollywood aviation expert Frank Tallman said that the film's dogfight finale scene between the biplane and 2 helicopters was one of the most dangerous and complex aerial sequences that he had ever executed for a movie. He flew the Red Stearman plane, and sadly he was killed in a crash soon after filming finished. It's kind of funny that Telly Savalas plays the pilot that flies this plane, but in real life, he was scared to fly. The director and writer, Peter Hyams, admitted that the studio forced him into taking O.J. Simpson to play John Walker. He felt like there were plenty of other African American actors who had kind of paid their dues as actors and had much more talent than O.J. did. He wasn't very enthusiastic about having him cast in this role, but the studio said he had to do it. O.J. was a celebrity of enormous stature, but he was somebody who was really unproven as far as whether or not he could play this part. The director's main goal was to see if he could get this guy to work within the film. When it came time to do the last scene, where he plays a guy who's parched and delusional from being in the desert on the run, rather than relying on him to act this part that he's desperately thirsty, the director helped him along by putting all sorts of appliances on his face that made it difficult for him to move and difficult to talk. These appliances made him sound like he was desperately in trouble. In the end, it turned out pretty good. He comes across in this desperate situation as being really credible. The director did make the statement afterwards that he was a charming, terrific guy, that he was really positive about his role, and that he worked really hard to be good at it. There's one scene where Charles Brubaker cuts open a snake and eats the insides so he can have some nourishment. What they did is they took a fake snake and stuffed it with raw fish, and that's what he's consuming in that scene. There's some ties to Barbra Streisand in this film, and the fact that her ex-husband, Elliot Gould, and her current husband, James Brolin, star together in this movie. While the conspiracy theories about the real moon landings being faked started in the mid-1970s, but they gained a lot of traction after the release of this movie. However, it's really interesting that the Soviet Union and its entire space program division have been remarkably silent about this matter, when if anybody could show that it was faked, it would be them. But as further proof that the moon missions were true, there's been plenty of unmanned space probes that have photographed the lunar surface with high-resolution cameras, and they show the debris and artifacts that were left at the landing sites that still stand there today. In the original print of the movie, after the belly landing of the Learjet, when Brubaker opens the emergency rations kit, there are packs of cigarettes included in it. He asked the other two if either of them wants one, and they both declined. This exchange was deleted from all subsequent prints of the film for obvious reasons, including the fact that it suggests that the government condoned smoking. But during the previous world wars, that was just the case. All ration kits contained cigarettes as a normal item in them. The writer and director has often joked that he had O.J. Simpson in this movie and that he had Robert Blake in a movie called Busting, which was Hymes's first feature film. He states that some people have Lifetime Achievement Awards, some people have multiple Oscars to their credit, but his bit of trivia that makes him stand out is that he made films with two of the leading men in his movies that were subsequently tried for first-degree murder of their wives. When you think about it, that is a pretty amazing feat to have two leading men that were charged with these crimes. And to top it off, they both got off scot-free. Take a look back at this movie. I watched it again a couple of days ago, and it's really a pretty good film. It's pretty intense, and it's enjoyable to watch. Thank you so much for watching. and we'll continue to chase the classics.